You carry something that others perceive the moment you enter a room. It is not an essentialist aura, but a way of being that others register instantly. A sensitive configuration produced by histories of power, knowledge, and norms that have marked your body. From Michel Foucault, we can understand why that social energy makes you both magnetic and vulnerable. It does not stem from innate goodness, but from processes of subjectivation and historical practices that only a few people manage to elaborate consciously. Through technologies of the self, through the effective training you undertook to adapt, that sensitivity was forged in friction with pain and then transformed into something more powerful, a disposition that allows you to perceive, name, and reorganize emotional climates. In scattered notes and courses, Foucault showed that what we call interiority is shaped by apparatuses and regimes of truth. Your empathic sensitivity operates on multiple levels at once. It can care, it can soothe by mere presence, but it also attracts light and shadow in such a way that, without care, it can either lift you up or consume you. What is most unsettling is that this configuration becomes dangerous when you do not understand its political nature. Without awareness of the relations of power that traverse it, it becomes a beacon for those who externalize their effective regulation, and at the same time, it wears you down from within. I propose that we descend into Foucault's intuitions about the way subjects and sensitivities are produced, to understand why this rare way of perceiving is the difference between remaining bound to the role of wounded healer and inhabiting a sovereign position. Because there is something that mainstream psychology still resists admitting, your so-called empathic aura is not a gift you were born with. It is a learned and later reappropriated strategy, a set of practices of care of the self that emerged in response to contexts of normalization, diffuse surveillance, and expectations that placed you as an emotional regulator. If you think about it from the genealogy of affects, many empathic people emerge from environments where survival depended on reading the climate with precision. Before reading words, you learn to decipher signs, micro-expressions, silences, tensions. You developed a radar for emotional danger because your safety depended on anticipating the meteorology of the bond. What is sometimes narrated as an individual trait is, in reality, the effect of a domestic economy of power. By assuming the role of the one who prevents conflict, your body learned to become porous, attentive, available. This mechanism not only helped you navigate traumas, it reconfigured your nervous system to operate in registers that others do not easily reach. Contemporary neuroscience, such as Elaine Aron's work on highly sensitive persons, shows that some brains process sensory information more deeply in regions associated with awareness, emotion, and empathy. But Foucault invites us to go a step further. That neurological difference is traversed by practices and discourses that make it socially legible and effective. Your sensitivity is not pure biology, it is biopolitics embodied. What is extraordinary is how this works in everyday practice. We are not dealing with mystical energies, but with a meticulous reading of gestures, positions, and expectations. A kind of socio-affective radar. Upon entering a room, you begin, often without intending to, an archaeology of what is not said. You dig beneath surface presentations to find emotional truths that norms have pushed into silence. Your presence reads projections, guilt, unprocessed griefs. Stage 1. Attunement to the effective patterns that organize the scene, what Foucault would call the regimes of truth that decide which emotions are valid and which must be left out. You pick up on unauthorized griefs, repressed rages, fears domesticated by the norm. Stage 2. Relational absorption. Because you were interpolated to occupy the place of regulator, your self becomes permeable and you begin to carry others' tensions without explicitly choosing it. A classic effect of subjectivation, where care of oneself is confused with the governance of others. Stage 3. Reconfiguration. Your system not only absorbs, it reorganizes discourses and effects through micro-practices, breathing differently, naming, framing, that return a more integrated version of what was at stake. That is why people usually feel better by your side, even if you did nothing. The scene changed because its distribution of power changed. But this process only protects when it becomes conscious. Without that lucidity, instead of composing, you become an emotional sponge. Your rare sensitivity triggers attraction patterns that are not timeless archetypes, but positions of subject that the apparatus calls forth. Someone who carries an unsupported childhood feels that, finally, someone will be able to give their pain a place. Someone who has externalized their shadow seeks a sensitive other to carry it. Someone who learned to extract effective regulation detects a source and, unknowingly, designs strategies of dependency. More fertile positions also show up. Someone working on themselves recognizes the possibility of co-evolving. Someone ready to embrace their own complexity allows themselves to be permeated by the legitimacy of feeling without shame. The risk lies in positional confusion, attempting to transform those who, in truth, have come to sustain the regime that keeps them unchanged. If you have noticed that you attract both highly worked-through people and others who are deeply demanding, it is not by chance. Your presence magnetizes both the desire for emancipation and the habits of governance over effects. Your way of being functions as both mirror and screen. Those who do their own work feel recognized. With you, I remember who I am. Those who avoid their shadow feel destabilized. They will try to lower your intensity to return everything to the norm. You're too sensitive. It's not such a big deal. Those who live off effective extraction perceive opportunity, endless venting, crises in series, emotional debt. Understanding this mechanism is key to boundaries. You do not only protect your energy, you interrupt a circuit of governance that makes you the guarantor of others' homeostasis. Setting conditions is to refuse the invitation for your body to be used as infrastructure of regulation for others. There is another layer, the collective. Foucault spoke of biopolitics to name the way entire populations are managed. Your sensitivity picks up those atmospheres, sadness in public tragedies, anxiety in periods of uncertainty, saturation in dense spaces. You are not making it up. Your apparatus registers intensities that exceed the individual. The danger is to confuse the common with the personal and fall into psychic inflation, making yourself responsible for wounds that belong to a broader we. The antidote is not to close yourself off, but to draw distinctions and practice a political hygiene of affect. Routines that return contour, rhythm, authorship. To transform vulnerability into situated sovereignty, start by naming your condition. What is not named governs you. Keep an energy accounting, which people, places, and tasks nourish you and which drain you. Locate relations of power, which norm operates, what demand circulates, what place you are assigned, and which you choose to occupy. Regulate boundaries, not walls, but membranes that let the bond in and keep manipulation out, with rules of time, channel, and purpose. Practice technologies of the self: writing, body, nature, creation, conversation with responsible peers, not to save everyone, but to choose where and how to commit your attention. Activate a conscious empathy, feeling with others without bottoming out, offering presence without exhausting yourself. It is holding opposites, compassionate and delimited, open and centered, sensitive and strong. When you integrate these practices, the signal you emit changes. Your presence remains clear, but it stops announcing "available to be drained." It becomes a contained glow. The relational ecosystem is reordered. Those who needed to govern you move away. Those who co-produce meaning with you arrive. Then something happens that once looked like effort and no longer is. You help by being, not by sacrificing yourself. What your presence enables in others is their own capacity for inner work, not their dependence on your invisible labor. Conflicts do not disappear, but their treatment changes. Less absorption, more co-authorship. Your role in the common becomes clear. In a world that often anesthetizes what hurts, people with your sensitivity operate as bridges of consciousness. Not to carry everything, but to make visible circuits of power that hurt and to propose practices that return agency. The temptation of salvationism is strong, and it is also an effect of the same apparatus. If you believe you must save everyone, you reproduce dependency. The ethic that matters here is another: care of the self that enables care of others, practices that increase shared freedom. This journey does not seek to suppress your sensitivity, but to make it chosen. When you understand how it was produced and how it is activated, you stop living it as a sentence and begin to inhabit it as an art. You can enter a room, feel what is happening, and respond from choice, not imposition. That does not make you cold, it tunes you. Conscious empathy serves love and lucidity, not fear or compulsion. Those who reach this point become reliable guides, not because they have magical answers, but because they have walked the passage from being a means of others' regulation to authorship of their own care. Your rare sensitivity, when embodied with awareness, shows that it is possible to feel everything and remain whole, to love without losing yourself, to serve without depleting yourself. It is not rare because few people feel. It is rare because few learn to govern their apparatus without being captured by it. Your sensitivity was tempered in early experiences, sharpened in every gesture of support you offered others, and reaches its maximum power when you support yourself first. That passage does not cancel the wound. It inscribes it in a narrative where it no longer governs, but teaches. Thus, your presence ceases to be the place where everyone unloads and becomes an invitation for each person to do their part. Share this with someone who needs to stop seeing their sensitivity as a punishment and start living it as a conscious practice. And if you want us to keep delving into how to turn your sensitivity into situated freedom, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share.